Hey everybody, and welcome back to BK's Bullets. Today we're going to be doing a Black Widow movie review. Hey everybody, and welcome back to BK's Bullets. As always, I am your host, Brent. I am back from my nice date night with my wife. We actually went and saw Black Widow in a movie theater, and I am here to tell you all about it. Now, before we get into the review, let me ask you to please do one thing. Please subscribe. Helps me out, helps the channel grow, lets you know when I drop new videos, all that good stuff. So, Black Widow. First movie I've seen in theaters in, I don't know, forever. So, Prelude, if you're watching this in the far, far future, 2020 and 2021 were kind of shit years for America and the rest of the world. And this movie was originally supposed to come out, I think, May 2020. Because of the pandemic, it finally came out in July 2021 with a dual theater screen release and a Disney Plus Premier Access streaming release, which was an extra $30 on top of your subscription. I've done that before for the kids' movies. We did that for Cruella, Raya, and I think one other one. And I was going to do that until my wife had the afternoon free up and we had the kids taken care of. And we said, hey, let's go see an early matinee of Black Widow. There should be less people there. And we'll go out to dinner afterwards. So that's what we did. We had a great time, just the two of us together. Did we have a great time at the movies? No. So I think this movie suffers from a lot of things. It's not necessarily the movie itself. I think it's just different choices they made along the way that kind of hampered it, right? So first things first, this movie, I think for me, and this is my own personal opinion, your opinion may vary, so don't hit me up with the hateful comments down below saying I'm totally wrong because I did not like the movie. Just know that your mileage may vary. Like, I'm the type of person, I agree that Thor: The Dark World is the worst Marvel movie yet so far. Is this Thor: The Dark World bad? No, it does not supplant Thor: The Dark World as the worst Marvel movie. Now, could I watch Thor: The Dark World over other movies I don't like Dude, Where's My Car? Yes. If you said, now again, this is me, I don't like Dude, Where's My Car, a lot of other people do. But if you said, or an Uwe Boll movie, right? You said, Brent, do you want to watch Uwe Boll, Postal, or Dungeons and Dragons, or whatever the hell he made? Or would you like to watch Thor: The Dark World? I would say, Thor: The Dark World, please. So, Thor: The Dark World for me is like a 2.5 star out of 5, or a low 3-star movie, and other Marvel movies are well above that. I'm also the type of person who did not like Captain Marvel, not because it was a female hero movie, but because I think by that time we'd seen the origin story for heroes be done so many times in the Marvel movies that Captain Marvel was just another repeat of that formula, and I was looking for something different. Made $1 billion. A lot of people still like that movie. That doesn't make my opinion invalid or yours, so just keep that in mind when we talk about Black Widow. I like Black Widow as a character. I love Scarlett Johanson in the role. I really think I've enjoyed every time I've seen her on screen in all of the Captain America, Avengers movies, Iron Man 2, whatever she's been in. I've really enjoyed her in the role. I think she does a good job. But I think this movie suffers from timing, right? So first timing thing it's got to suffer from, I think, the pandemic. That's not the movie's fault. But I think just seeing this thing all last year, if you're paying attention to the movies like I do a little bit, you're seeing maybe I saw too much of the trailers or too much of the same thing in the trailers. But again, they didn't want to hold everything back. But because they delayed Black Widow, since it was like the first thing Disney started to delay, they delayed it like 2 months, then 3 months, then 4, then 5. At one point it was coming out in August of 2020. And then it was coming out in March of 2021. And then it was coming out in May. So this is the movie that got shifted the most, amount of times. And I think that because every time they shifted it, they started releasing a new trailer or something. And that I think it hurt the movie a little bit for me. That's not to say that if you've not seen anything for the last year and a half, you're going to enjoy the hell out of it. I still think it has some problems, and we'll go through that as we go along. Second thing I think this movie suffers from in a timing perspective is where they put it in the MCU in terms of like when the movie takes place and when the movie's coming out compared to what other MCU movies have come out. So this movie takes place almost like 4 or 5 years ago in 2016 times, right? So this takes place right after Captain America Civil War. And it, I had to I was sitting next to my wife in the movie theater, and she's like, what's going on? I'm like, remember, she's on the run. This takes place right after Civil War, pre-Infinity War. And when I tell her pre-Infinity War, I'm pretty sure she's thinking like pre-Endgame and not, because she's like, when did the snap happen? I'm like, that happens way after this movie, right? Because supposedly they were on the run from, I think it's like 2016, Civil War came out, and in the Marvel Universe and the MCU, like up until Infinity War, and the snap, everything took place in the year the movie came out, kind of thing, right? So they were like on the run for 2 years after Civil War, before Infinity War, and then Infinity War has that 5-year gap to Endgame in the Marvel timeline. So the next time we see a Marvel movie, Shang-Chi, however you pronounce it, the next Marvel movie that's coming out, Eternals, I think all take place somewhere in the future, maybe 2023, the way the Marvel movie math timeline works out. Anyway, this movie suffers from coming out way later than when it takes place, right? So Captain Marvel did the same thing. I don't think it suffered as much from it because it was very clearly in the 90s, but since there's no like clear time delineation when this movie takes place, you're kind of watching it. If you haven't been keeping up or you're not paying that much attention, people like my wife, I'm the Marvel movie nerd. She watches them all with me. She enjoys them all. We have a great time watching them together. But she's not remembering all the details right away, going in and saying, okay, well, this takes place here, so keep this in mind, blah, 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 blah. She relies on me to do that for her. So people like that may go, huh? When is it? What? Because this is pre-snap, pre-death, but post-Civil War. Like, there's a whole lot going on in the Marvel Universe at that time, and this is a time period we haven't really seen explored, and I would argue we still don't see it explored because it's focused on Black Widow with this mission of destroying the Red Room. So there's, I think, some explaining for people who aren't superhero junkies like you and I, where you got to remind people that, hey, this takes place here in the timeline, whereas like we're way over here by the time the next Marvel movie comes out. So there's a little bit of like, oh, okay, cool. And the movie does not do that for the audience at all. It relies on the audience to look to their superhero movie nerd next to them and say, when does this take place? And for that person to know exactly when it takes place and say, it actually takes place on this day, this day, this day, in between this. Like, the movie relies on you to sit next to somebody like me to explain it to somebody like my wife who may not remember everything all at once. And I think that movie suffers for that a little bit. Because they don't really, like, pick a point in time and place it right after an event. It's like sometime after Civil War, not quite sure when, like, based on the ending, like, does she gets a Quinjet at the ending, and this is all a spoiler review if you haven't seen the movie. Maybe come back and watch this review after. But I mean, it's not really a spoiler to say she gets a Quinjet at the end of the movie and then goes on the rest of her adventures, right? So she gets this Quinjet, and it's unclear if this Quinjet is what she goes to get Captain America, because she says she's going to break out some Avengers out of jail, and so it's quite unclear if that's somewhere in the time frame between the end of Civil War and the beginning of Infinity War, this 2-year span, or if that is when Captain America shows up at the raft at the end of Civil War and breaks out Ant-Man and Hawkeye and all those other guys. Again, I don't know when this... It's hard to tell when this movie takes place. I think it hurts it a little bit. Because there's things they're setting up that are so small, so minute, that you're like, huh? Like, when? There's other fun things that they're setting up, like they're setting up her hairstyle. I didn't realize that they were setting up the vest she had on in Infinity War until the very end of the movie, and I was like, oh, okay, cool. I guess that was needed. I don't really think so. But in overall, what I posted on my Facebook page, on my personal page, was that this movie tries to be Captain America: The Winter Soldier, that film, and ends up being more like Thor: The Dark World. Like, it has big ambitions, but I think it doesn't succeed. And I think because it doesn't succeed because we've seen it all before. So let me back up and let me expound upon this thesis, right? So Captain America, the Winter Soldier, great 70s spy thriller, great espionage film. You've never seen anything like it before. This Black Widow movie has a whole lot of things that are identical, very, very similar thematically, or action scenes are almost the exact same. And when I point them out, you will understand what I'm talking about, right? So spoilers, if you haven't watched the movie, like really go watch the movie and then come back. Please come back. But like Captain America's Winter Soldier was Cap dealing with his past, right? Black Widow, in this movie, dealing with her past. She's taken down the Red Room. Captain America Winter Soldier, he's taken down Hydra, which is the past organization he was fighting against in the first film he had. So this Cap dealing with his past, right? He's also dealing with the past. This is Black Widow's dealing with the past with her family. You got Red Guardian, you got Yelena Belova, you got Marina, her family from when she was growing up for a couple of years. The same way that Cap is dealing with his family with the thing with Bucky. He's fighting Bucky and trying to get Bucky back. And at the same time that Cap movie, he's also making a new family with Black Widow and the Falcon, this new bonding thing at this, so Natasha's like at the same time dealing with her old family as well as rebonding to those characters we're being introduced to, right? So it's kind of, thematically it's almost the same there. Then, you have the themes, like they're both spy thrillers, right? Black Widow's supposed to be this like super agent, ninja spy, whatever type of thing, going on the run, living off the grid. At the same time that Cap in Winter Soldier is this 70s-esque spy thriller, like Way of the Condor or whatever, Night of the Condor, I don't know, I've never seen the movie, sorry, I can't name it properly, but, so thematically they're very similar, but I think that's more to do with the characters being very similar in terms of, like, they don't have superpowers necessarily, right? Black Widow's fighting, almost a version of herself with Taskmaster, and we'll get to him later. Taskmaster's, knows all the moves. He can see it. He memorizes it. He has the shield, all that stuff. Whereas, Captain America's fighting Bucky, who knows all the moves, is just as powerful as he is. He can also throw Cap's shield back at him. So that's very similar here. And then you have the final action sequence, which when this happened, I was kind of thinking in the middle of the movie, like, this is very much like Winter Soldier, but it's just not as good. And then they get to the point of the Red Room, and they're like going up in this aircraft or whatever, and the Red Room is literally like a fucking helicarrier sitting above the clouds. They're like, you've never found the Red Room because it doesn't exist on Earth, literally. And I'm like, oh my god, this whole movie is gonna be, we're gonna have the same finale of this thing crashing down and them trying to avoid debris as we did in Captain America, the Winter Soldier, when the whole final battle was on these helicarriers as they're crashing into each other and falling down into the bay in New York City around the Triskelion. And I was like, you gotta be fucking kidding me. Like, nobody noticed this and said, like, hey, maybe we should think of a different ending. Ugh. And at that point, that's when I was like, this is not a great Marvel film. This might be a Thor the Dark World level, like, passable. Like, it's not terrible. It is watchable, but it's not something that you're going to be, like, going back to again and again and again the way you are with Iron Man, the way you are with the Winter Soldier, Captain America the Winter Soldier, with Civil War, with Infinity War, with Endgame, with whatever other favorite Marvel movie you have. Any of the Spider-Man films. Homecoming's very good. I can go and rewatch that one. This is one of those ones you're going to be like, do I want to rewatch that one? I don't know. Would I rather rewatch this or Thor the Dark World? I don't know yet. We'll get to that in a later review. Probably we'll talk about it at a later date. But it's just so similar to Winter Soldier. And then by the end, I was like, literally, it's the same fucking ending. This is ridiculous. Man. So I think that is really where it suffers, is that it's literally the same movie we saw in 2014 when the Winter Soldier came out, the Captain America Winter Soldier film. Like, 6 years later this would have been, from 2014 to 2020. You make the same movie again. Black Widow deserves better. Scarlett Johansson deserves better. To have a different plot, come on. I mean, literally, we found a family. We found our family again. Cap finds a family with Falcon and Black Widow and Bucky. Things falling out of the sky. It's literally the same movie. Anyway, other things I didn't like, and I think this is why it's Thor: The Dark World. It's like there's too many things in this movie that I didn't like that override the things that I do like, or thought were okay. Then that's why this movie is, to me, on the level of Thor: The Dark World in terms of quality of a Marvel film. Like I said, still better than other movies out there. Not the worst thing I've ever seen, but in terms of the MCU, this is ranking very low for me. Taskmaster. Let's talk about Taskmaster. This whole idea of like this super ninja assassin, like, it's very Winter Soldier is what it is, right? Bucky shows up in Winter Soldier, and this is my Winter Soldier side. He's very like, you can't see anything but his eyes, and he's got the black in his eyes, so you can't really see his eyes. You just have his eyebrows as his expression. And then Taskmaster's literally over here, and you can't see any of his face. You just see the mask. That's not, I mean, okay, you want to do Taskmaster, you want to put him in a skull mask. You don't really want to make him like the Red Skull or whatever, fine. All right, you kept the hood, fine. I'm not going to argue with his character design, but like literally the villains are almost the same in these movies that are almost the same. What's fun about Taskmaster, and what's been fun about him in the last couple years in the comics, right? So separate quarter, is that Taskmaster is a very formidable villain because he has some weird thing about like if he can see it, he can duplicate it. Something about his reflexes, right? Super reflexes. If he sees you do a move, he can do the move. He's like the ultimate b-boy challenger. If he was on the dance floor and you challenged him to a dance off and you did some wild move, he'd be able to do that move and do a twist on it and one up you every single time. It's the same thing with Taskmaster in fighting, right? So he's the ultimate combatant because he's seen everything, he's memorized it, whatever, and then he's he can throw it back at you. The fun part about Taskmaster recently in the comics is that he's also a coward. He is such a mercenary that he is always about himself over everything else. It's himself over the job all the time, right? He's only in it for the money. And once the money becomes not worth it and he realizes that, he's going to get killed or this is very dangerous, he exits out of that situation and is like, bye-bye. So this is almost like if Deadpool was a coward, right? And that's what I would say that Taskmaster is. He's a Captain America level threat on a fighting level, but with the smarminess of Deadpool, but the cowardliness of, your random Hydra agent that ran away, or the stormtrooper that walked away in Episode 7 when they saw Kylo Ren throwing a temper tantrum off to the side, right? It's a mix of all of that. And that's what makes Taskmaster fun in the comic books. Why he's so interesting is because he's all about himself, self-survival, self-preservation over everything. But when he's on, he's on. But, sometimes he makes that choice to say, you know what, this is kind of, he's kind of a smart aleck stuff by making him this maskless, this fully masked up, ultra silent villain type, the same way we had in Winter Soldier, right? To put him over here, to be a duplicate of Winter Soldier, basically, you remove the personality from the character, you removed all the fun things that have been introduced to the character in the last couple of years, and you purely make him a physical adversary to Natasha. And okay, fine. If that's what he was supposed to be, the physical version of the adversary, as opposed to physical and mental, where mental was the Ray Winstone character. Ray Winstone does a pretty good job in this movie, but he's doing the same thing he does in every movie, right? So I can't really say like I liked his part in the movie. I'm just like, hey, it's Ray Winstone. I've always liked Ray Winstone. He's doing a Russian accent again. Like I'm pretty sure I've seen that from him before. But he's the mental challenge, the mental block, the heartache, the character development thing for Natasha, whereas Taskmaster is just the physical part of that problem that she's facing. So if you remove the character, the attitude of this, you're literally removing the character from your adversary. So now you have this blank villain who might as well not be there, and it was like you had it was Taskmaster was intimidating in the very first scene he showed up in on the bridge in Norway against Natasha. I like that scene. I like the fight there. But once they put Taskmaster in like the glass box, and they like locked Taskmaster up, I was like, you're really gonna do that to the villain? Like it's fucking Taskmaster. He's supposed to be one of the best threats in the Marvel universe on a physical level. And they just put him under glass, and they're just like, nah. And then surprise, surprise, Natasha's got to let Taskmaster loose because she has a heart for whatever's going on with Taskmaster. It's a whole other thing. But, and then you have this stupid CGI fight down as the helicarrier, we'll call it, as the Red Room is crumbling around them, that ultimately they land. This is the thing that bothered me the fucking most, is that she gave a parachute leading up to the Taskmaster fight at the very end to Yelena to save her life. Somehow, and I'm an engineer by trade, so this bothered the shit out of me. Your mileage may vary how much this bothers you, but it was really unrealistic. Like, you have a character going to get a parachute to save her sister, right? Because the fall will kill you. And then she somehow slows herself down on this metal falling piece of glass. Like, everything falls at the same rate, guys. Everything falls at the same rate. If you drop a tennis ball and a penny at the exact same time, they're going to hit the ground at the exact same time. And when you have something that high, eventually they do accelerate, but they accelerate to something called terminal velocity. And that is, terminal velocity is the thing, like you watch parachuters or whatever, skydivers, they'll talk about terminal velocity. It's like, that's the velocity where you're going to fall to the ground and break your fucking neck and it will kill you. The fall will kill you. Even falling, that's why they say don't jump off a bridge into still water, because you're going to hit it and it's going to hit you like concrete, and that's what kills you, not because you drown, but because you shattered all the bones in your body and then you couldn't swim because your legs were broken and your neck was broken. That's what kills people from suicide, jumping off bridges. Not endorsing that at all. Please call the suicide hotline if you're ever having thoughts like that. But you have Natasha jumping down, slowing herself down on these things that are still falling at terminal velocity, and then somehow her and Taskmaster end up on the ground, totally fine, and then have a superhero fight? No. Like, I'll allow some of the shit with Steve Rogers because he's got the shield and the super soldier formula, or if you're Iron Man and you got repulsors, I'll allow it. I'll assume you did the math and you did the deceleration enough to bring yourself safely down to the ground where you're not going to break your neck. These two characters don't have any superpowers at all. I'm not giving this a pass. This was fucking terrible planning. You should have given them a parachute at least to grab onto or find on the way down to pull, or whatever. That was unacceptable to me. That's movie logic. That's like, you literally had someone give your main character give someone else a parachute, and then she didn't use one, and somehow she survived in the same scene. That's why it breaks for me, not because I'm the physics nerd, but literally, like, that's the contradiction here. She needs a parachute to survive, but our hero doesn't, but they both have the same powers? No. Fuck that. That's wrong. Terrible writing. So, I didn't like that, and then the end fight with Taskmaster, like, it just wasn't as good as some other stuff, and you'd almost taken away the threat of Taskmaster because you were able to lock him up in that glass case 10 or 15 minutes before, right? That's just dumb. I'm fine with Taskmaster being dumb when he's in character, when he's the smarmy mercenary, because he is a little dumb. But you take all that away, and I'm assuming that this robot Taskmaster or whatever is, smarter than that. So that didn't work for me. Okay, so let's talk about who Taskmaster is, right? I thought the whole time Taskmaster was going to be the guy who was hooking up Natasha with all her gear, because he's the guy from Handmaid's Tale. The character's name is Luke in Handmaid's Tale. I don't know the actor's name, I'm sorry. I assumed that he was graduated, and I was like, good for you in a Marvel movie? Are you the villain? Because it's an all-female movie, we know who everybody else is playing, we don't know who you're playing. I assumed he was going to be Taskmaster. I was wrong. That's fine. No big deal. But they make Taskmaster the daughter of the Red Room head? Okay, fine. I got no issues there. They built a convincing enough suit. It fooled everybody, right? The problem was you got Olga Kurylenko to play this daughter, And I'm pretty sure Olga Kurylenko is the exact same age as Scarlett Johansson, if not a little bit older. She's been acting, just as long or whatever. Like, this is the girl from Oblivion with Tom Cruise. She was in the first Hitman film with Timothy Olyphant. She's been acting a long, long time. And I remember what she looked like 10 years ago, 20 years ago. And you want to act like this girl was 6 or 7 when Natasha defected to S.H.I.E.L.D. sometime in the mid-2000s, right? Like, no. They're the same age. So, even when this movie takes place, this is 2016, you're talking about 10 years prior. And this girl, if she's 6 or 7, should be more looking like they should have chosen an actress, in my opinion. Just my opinion. To be more of Florence Pugh's age than Olga Kurylenko, who I think is a fine actress. I've liked stuff that she's been in. I've liked her performances. But it just gave her nothing to do other to be a face in this suit for like a day and a half. And you chose her because she's got I don't know if she's Russian or not, so forgive me, but because she's got a Russian name? Like, really? You could have saved yourself a bigger paycheck and gotten somebody who made sense. Like, oh yeah, I can believe that this person 10 or 15 years later would look like this. Because literally we saw the daughter, this is the problem. We saw the daughter in the flashback, and the daughter looked to be 2 years older than my daughter, who's 6 going on 7, right? So no, this was not believable at all. And I think that probably happened because I knew who the actress was. And only I don't know if I would have recognized her, but in the opening credits, they got a regular opening credits, which is unusual for a Marvel film, where they splash everybody's name on the front, right? So I didn't know that Ray Winstone was in it. I saw his name after, I think that was after we'd seen him like younger up when he's wearing like the tracksuit thing in the flashback. So I'm like, okay, yeah, I think that was Ray Winstone. Oh, there's his name in the credits. That must be him. Okay, cool. And then it says Olga Kurylenko, and I'm like, Olga Kurylenko's in this? Like, I know her. And then I'm looking for her the whole movie, and then when she finally shows up in the end as Taskmaster, I'm like, oh, that's where you put her? That sucks for her. Oh, I wish you did not do that just because I like the actress. She's talented, and she's the same age as Scarlett. This doesn't make any sense. So many things. Okay, so let's talk about things I did like in the movie. What did I like, Brent? You're 30 minutes in. If you're still here looking for things I liked about the movie, thank you for staying this long. I liked David Harbour. I liked the character. I thought he was doing his David Harbourist, and I didn't mind it. I liked it. I thought it was cute. He tried on the suit. He never took it off. I don't think that character took a shower from when he got out of prison till the end of the movie. I find that funny. I wish they'd touched on that more. I liked Florence Pugh a whole lot. I always have. Ever since I've seen her in, I don't know what she was in. Not The Witch. Midsummer she's in. She's in a couple other things. I've liked her as well. I think she's a great actress. But I liked her Yelena Belova, how she's a little bit wittier. And I did like the character stuff of her, like, getting mad when Natasha and the dad character, our Red Guardian, were talking about, the family they had for 3 years. And they're like, it wasn't real. She's getting upset because she was a little girl, like from 3 to 6 or 7. And it looked like what that character was at that time. Knowing how my daughter is, and I'm like, yeah, that was real to her. Like, hell yeah, that was the mom and dad she had. That's when the things you remember, and you latch onto that. And then when you're ripped away, like, those are your only good memories. Hell yeah, it was real for her. So I did like her there, and the character arc she had of being like, this was my family. Like, F you guys, this was my family. How dare you say that? I did like that part. What else did I like? I like the prison breakout scene the best. My favorite scene in the movie, if I had to pick one, the prison breakout scene with Red Guardian, the helicopter, all that stuff. I think that's the best scene in the movie. That's something that I haven't seen in a Marvel movie before. Give me more of that. And then when you put the Red Room up in the sky like a helicarrier, I'm like, oh my god, I've seen this movie before. And it's one of I think the problem is, now that we've seen that movie before, it's that we've seen the movie before in the Marvel Universe, and Captain America the Winter Soldier is one of the best Marvel movies. So you're putting yourself up against one of the best movies in your same universe, and that's a tough egg to crack, tough nut to crack, so they say. So that's my thoughts on Black Widow. I think there's a lot of problems. Some of it stems from waiting. Maybe when I watch it again in like a year or 6 months and I'm not awaiting it, when we're post-pandemic, when we're 2 more movies in the Marvel Universe, I can watch it by itself and be like, you know what? This isn't that bad. But I think on first seeing it, after everything, this is totally something that I could have paid $30 for on Premiere Access on Disney Plus and been totally fine with. I think maybe just being in the movie theater, maybe I'm making excuses now for why I didn't like the movie, and I probably shouldn't do that. I honestly didn't like the movie. Like, I've seen better Marvel movies, and this was by far one of the worst ones. And even my wife, we came out, and she was like, this was bad. I'm like, yeah, this was not good. Definitely not good. Not the worst movie we've ever seen together, but definitely not good. So, yeah, Black Widow. There you go. If I had to rate it, you know, again, it's not terrible, but considering expectations and how well Marvel's been able to go the entire time and only really make one bad movie that everybody kind of agrees sucks, which is Thor: The Dark World, I'm going to give Black Widow 2 stars out of 5. Purely because you're putting it up against every other film. If this was just a regular action film, and not part of the MCU, I'd probably say this is like a 3-star out of 5 movie. Totally fine, totally passable, but nothing special that you need to run out and see this in theaters for. I'd say if you have the money and you're thinking about putting it on Disney Plus, I would say this is probably something you could do that. Especially if you got a wife, a date, snacks, all that stuff. If you've already got that in your house, pay the $30, throw this on Disney Plus. This is not worth going out for. Definitely not worth going out for, in my opinion. So, there you go. If you made it this far, thank you for watching. Let me know down below if you really did like this movie, and if you can disprove my theory about this being the same movie as Captain America: The Winter Soldier, put it down below. I challenge you, because I think I'm dead on about that. So, thank you guys for watching here on BK's Bullets. Leave a comment, like, share, subscribe, all that stuff. And we will see you guys next time here in the Funny Pages.